I guess let's talk to Nasser.
Yeah.
Hey,
Nasser,
Nasser,
you were on
how are
last time I was on.
Oh, yes, I was. Hello, Nasser. Hello, Promise. Well, dang, I kind of feel bad for taking the reins away from James, but I hope we can have a good
Okay.
conversation so that she can come back.
Hopefully.
Well, I do kind of want to recap quickly where we left off last time because it did end abruptly. I was with you, Forrest and Seth. Do you want me to recap real quick before we jump off?
If it's necessary, I would rather just talk about what you have listed here on the call screen, which is why shouldn't I believe in a God?
Yeah, and I
Right.
wasn't
I do
there for
think it's
that
necessary. Yeah.
conversation, and we
Of
I
course.
you know a lot of people are going to be listening to this that weren't listening last time, so we might just need to have like a new
No,
conversation.
no. I do want to make sure the viewers aren't in this, and I do think it's important for the conversation going forward. So what I said last time as an introduction to myself was, I'm a Muslim from the Middle East. I am young, and honestly, this is probably going to be pretty low level stuff because I'm saying, why shouldn't I believe? Because what I said last time was the only reason I believe in the Muslim God is because it's what I've been brought up with. But I don't actually know what's a good reason to believe in anything. And that's what I'm here to discuss. I also want to discuss evolution in the classroom because that's actually what inspired me to call here, is what occurred when we were finally taught evolution in the classroom here. With other students, I mean, I do believe in evolution, by the way. And yeah, that's where I want to jump off. So you guys can take it from there. What do you want to ask so we can move on with this conversation here?
Go, Promise. That's
Sure.
a
Go
lot.
ahead,
Okay,
Tom.
I'm trying
A lot. And
to
I'm just kind of
yeah, I'm
here.
trying to follow that. So you're saying why shouldn't you believe in a God? I don't know. I don't understand
Right.
why we're going with that question because in that case, why shouldn't you believe an infinite amount of other options of other things that you haven't even thought of? So to me, a better question is why should you? Like I'm not asking myself why I'll use from the other call, why shouldn't I believe in Bigfoot? In that case, why shouldn't I just believe every single thing ever presented to me? Which is that a good way to live? Not really. That's not going to help me in life. So instead, I like to
Mhm.
ask, why should I believe this? So, especially when it's a really big claim like this. Um, so
Mhm.
why should I believe in a God? Why aren't we starting there?
I do agree with your line of reasoning. And Seth did actually say something similar last time. He said, it's so frustrating that you are, it's refreshing that you're here, but it's frustrating that you're not actually just taking one step further and saying, if I don't actually have a good reason, and if I'm not asking it the way that you said, Promise, then why don't I just not believe? And the only reason I could come up for that is, well, again, it's the reason I've been brought up here. And if I were to make the choice to identify with the atheism model of just not believing and doing that, it's more than just relinquishing the belief, right? There's ramifications there. There is
Yeah,
lots
yeah.
of identity, community, stuff like that. It's a little more complicated than that. And while I do
That's
100% see the line of reasoning there, I feel like,
that's
you might understand why it's not so simple, right?
that's what
Totally.
we
So
call the argument from adverse consequence. It's if I
but
believe
here's
this thing is
Right.
true, then there's a bad reason. And like that's not a good reason to not believe a thing or to believe a thing.
well, I think
It's not a
I
good
think these are
reason.
two separate. These are two separate things, and I talk to people a lot about this a lot, Nasser, and I appreciate your honesty in this. Um, I think the issue here is we're looking at belief as though it's a choice, and it's really not because I have a feeling
I
that you
agree.
either are convinced of this or you're not. Now, whether you choose to be honest about that is up to you. And I also want to point this out. You don't owe anybody that answer. If it's going to make you unsafe to tell people your position of belief, I would advise that you not do that. I think it's, in some cases, it can be a privilege to be able to say, yeah, I don't believe this because you're absolutely right. There are cultural ramifications, there are safety, especially if you said you're young, if you're still living at home. I would advise heavily against sharing that information. So let's focus on
I
figuring
do
out
agree.
if you have a good reason for believing this or not if you have a good reason for being honest with people in your life about it, because I don't think there's morality attached to
I
that. I think
agree.
that's up to you to figure out. So I'd rather figure out, if you have a good reason to believe this. It sounds to me like you're doubting that you do have a good reason to believe it. Is that kind of where you're at
I
right
don't
now?
have it. Yes, but I do want to compare it with other things that I believe. For example, like I said before, I believe in evolution. I believe in a lot of things in science, and I believe in a million other things. And I wanted to draw a parallel. So let's say I do believe in Islam, but I'm only believing it because of the community stuff. I believe in evolution, but it's not because of that. I believe in evolution. Well, I do want to talk about it actually. I think if you guys would think it productive, I want to discuss why I believe in evolution and draw parallel from there, and also compare it to why Forrest would believe in evolution, because obviously Forrest is a professional here. He's an evolutionary biologist, as far as I know, and he would have better reasons than me, I would say. Would you guys think that that would be a productive way to draw parallel into why should we believe what we believe here?
I mean, as long as we can be general about it, we don't have to like actually dig into like the
Yeah,
fossil record and
I
everything
think
unless you want to. But like,
yeah.
No,
I think if
no,
we
I don't
keep
think we
it
have to do
clear,
that now.
we're toward the end of the show, but here's my main thing though, because I think we can get to this point even faster. Do you care
Sure.
if what you believe in general, like do you care if things that you believe are true or not?
Yes, I do.
Great, that's a really good value
That's
to
why I'm here.
hold. So then I think that you take it from there, and so, like, how do you determine if something is true or not? And I guess that's what you're getting to. You've determined, that evolution is true. Would
Yeah.
that be accurate? Right. So for me, I'm not gonna believe something unless I have a good reason to believe it's true. So I think this can be so simple. If you don't have a good reason to believe in a God, because you have found good reasons to believe evolution, if we're going to phrase it that way, but you haven't found good reasons to believe a God exists. So it's a great idea to not believe it then.
hmm So I assume there's a bit of a time crunch here. I might call in next week to discuss more of the details, but I
If
agree
you
with
want to
you
get,
in the premise of what you're saying, Promise. Forrest, what he said last week was the answer is always going to be evidence for what's a good reason to believe. And even though he's not a physicist, he can still believe in things related to physics, such as the theories and laws in physics, because there is evidence. But in my view, I only think I don't think I actually have a good reason to believe in evolution either. I mean, I can explain it. I can explain why I believe in evolution, but I think Forrest, out of everyone here, has the best reasons to believe in evolution, simply because he knows of the evidence. He can explain it. He can even find it out from himself from scratch. I mean, I could
but
possibly
you
do that
still
if he gave
have
me 300 years. Yep.
you
but then
still
he
have
doesn't
good reasons to
believe it. He
believe
knows
though in evolution.
it.
Right. If we're working on the word belief here, like just fine. Like you still have good reasons because it still affects your life every day. And the fact that
It does. Yeah.
evolution works is why biomedical sciences as a whole work. It's why agriculture works. It's why forensics works. It's why like there's so many things that work because evolution works. And so like even if you don't know the data, even if you have not gone to school to learn about it, it still benefits you, it still affects you, and you can still learn enough the basics to understand it in a rudimentary and fundamental way. Like that's all fine. So like the problem is when I talked about that stuff, like it's just a recap. Like, yeah, I'm not a physicist, but I know enough about the Big Bang to talk about. But you can take something I'm even less educated on. I don't know jack shit about how computers work, man. I don't know anything about computers. Jimmy Snow makes fun of me regularly for not knowing anything about computers at all, even the most basic stuff. I know what a capacitor is, zero clue why they're there. I know what they are and what they do, don't know what it's all about. I can't talk, you know what I mean? And so like stuff like that, I got nothing. But it's here doing the job in front of me. Like it's the reason why I'm able to talk to you at this moment is because my computer is running. And so like even if I have zero concept, zero understanding, I can at least benefit from like understanding that this thing exists and is currently functioning in a way that works for me. And that's all I really need. You can't do even that with your God because at the end of the day, you have no demonstration of this God that other people can't demonstrate, and it means the same nothing for all their own gods. This God doesn't make any novel, testable predictions. I don't know how my computer works, but if it works, I should be able to click the little blue W icon here and it'll open up Microsoft Word. And indeed, it does every time. And so I know that the thing works. If God is real, I should be able to say, if I do X, then Y will happen every time. And there isn't a single thing like that with God, except you can say, if I pray, I will be disappointed. And then you'll be guaranteed to have that outcome. But like beyond that, man, you got nothing for this God. You have no reason to believe in it. You have no evidence for it. You just have the comfort of the belief. And that's not a good reason to make a truth claim.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Forrest. And this is actually what's so frustrating about this whole religion thing and what I've been brought up. Because I mentioned this before, but I am probably very autistic. I have no idea how humans work and why humans behave the way they do. It's still to this degree, like to the point where I don't even know what someone means when they say "How are you" to me, because it doesn't seem like they want to answer, and I could go into that. I don't get it. Another thing I don't get is why are the people who seem so to be identified? Yes, go ahead.
And yet, you do know that humans exist because you can make novel testable predictions about them. And there are people, I just happen to have this within arm's reach, who study them and can talk about humans in a detailed way. And like, that's great. And so you don't need to be a human biologist. You don't need to be a bioanthropologist. You don't need to be a biomedical scientist. You don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to be a primatologist. You don't need to be any of these things to be able to look around you, see humans, and know that if you do these things, then the humans will do those things. And that's great evidence that they exist. With God, you just don't have that. And so there's no reason to believe it. If you don't have any evidence for something, then there's no reason to believe the thing. Let me ask you a question, Nasser. How can you tell the difference between something that you have no evidence for and something that simply does not exist?
Well, I don't think I would, in my current state, be able to. I mean, if my current understanding of what logic is, to actually probably there's indistinguishable. If there is a method to actually knowing if something is probable at all, I think that's something that needs to be proven, if it's even possible. I don't think I'll be able to do that at this current stage in my knowledge.
I don't know of a way to do it either. I don't know of a way to do it either. If something has absolutely no evidence for its existence, I don't know how to distinguish that from something that actually just simply doesn't fucking exist. And I don't know of anybody who does. And I would be very suspicious and very distrusting of anybody who claimed to be able to do that. And so, like, that's where we're at, man, is that you have no evidence for this God, and yet you are believing it. Would you do that with absolutely anything else ever? Is there any situation ever where you would take something and say, I have exactly. So you are carving out not only a special place in your life for this God, but a special place in your brain for this God, and having a totally different kind of thinking that you would never apply anywhere else because you know how bullshit it is, and you're using it right here. And I think that you should not do that, because that is a great way to believe some silly shit.
I see what you're saying, and I have a question related to everything you just said that is going to require a little bit of a spiel about how other people behave. And like, I kind of want to take your perspective on it, as you two being atheists that have been doing this for a while, and obviously the people around me who are just Muslims who are just Muslims who are just Muslims. And I'm gonna be honest, it's been pretty boring talking to them about why or what, or it's just been, antagonistic. So if I may go on a little spiel for a question.
Brief, the tiniest of spiels, because we are at the end of the show and we have 2 calls left. So like 30-second spiel max.
All right, let's go quickly. Sure, that's more than enough. So, I have been asking people, why do you believe this, or why is this the way it is, and whatever, and it's never been satisfactory. I've asked my mother things about Allah, and she just tells me either, hey, that's there's reasons for that, and where did I get it from? Oh, well, of course he's so nice. Of course he's this way. Of course. Or other people ask them, why do you think that evolution isn't real? Which is what happened in the classroom. Like, what? They're like, oh, but it's contradictory to other things. I'm like, well, do you think that Noah's Ark will literally happen? Some of them say yes, some of them say no, and it's like some of them be like, like, well, I want to know what motivates people to have these picky and choosy attitudes of like, oh yeah, I do believe in this. Oh yeah, God does do this for us. He does give you this mercy. He does allow you to do this. And alcohol is fine. And I don't need to pray 5 times a day. And some of them do. Some of them are like, no, you have to be strict. And it's like everyone's got their own little thing. And sometimes it just feels like people are straight up lying to me, or just making shit up on the spot. And it's very frustrating. With the evolution of something, for example, everything I've learned about it, if I went out, it's fine. If I when they told me that physics says that the acceleration of gravity on Earth is 9.8 meters per second, I never tested it, but it would be quite ridiculous if airplanes continued to fly if physicists thought otherwise. I have all this, but I've never had anything satisfying from religious people. I want to ask you, from your perspective, why is everyone just this way around
Welcome to our fucking world, Nasser.
This is welcome to why we do this. This is what we regularly face. But what you're describing, because I grew up in a very, very religious household. They're all I'm the only one that's an atheist out of a massive family. In fact, most of them are in full-time ministry to this day. And so I understand what it's like to be surrounded by that. But that is the power of dogma. Once somebody has to believe something, whatever that reason may be, and I think that's when it comes down to that individual person. Maybe it's a fear of death. Maybe it is because they were close to a family member that believed that way, and so they have sentimental reasons. Maybe it's because they aren't educated enough when it comes to science, and they need to have an answer about the universe or things like that. People have their reasons for dogma. And when somebody has decided that they have to believe something, whether that's conscious or subconscious, they can tell all kinds of stories. They can continue to try to make this thing make sense. And that's where you get the dishonesty. And it is really, really frustrating. And if you are going to be a skeptical person, you are going to come across that the rest of your life. And so your best bet is to get really comfortable with being frustrated with people hanging on to their dogma. And that, unfortunately, is just part of life. I understand like wanting to know like an exact reason, why are people like this? But that's the thing about humans. There's so many different things and people have different reasons for why they cling to stuff. But I do think you're right that at the base of it, there is some intellectual dishonesty that they're having to cling to. And what gets me through that and helps me not be too frustrated is I hold compassion and empathy for whatever that reason is. There must be something in their life that's causing them to have to hold on so tightly. And that makes me sad for them because that's some unresolved issue that they haven't had the courage to face yet.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good answers today. Thank you, Promise. And thank you, Forrest, as well.
Yeah, thanks for, I like these questions.
I've been taking a little bit of notes.
This call.
Yeah, I'm thinking about calling back as well, so give other people a chance. And because I feel like there's a lot more interesting things we could go. And I imagine that this is interesting for everybody to hear. Like, I could just be a complete idiot here and everyone in the chat is just freaking bored, or this could be interesting for everyone. I hope it's interesting for everyone. And I want to explore more, like, what are the good reasons to believe?
Yeah, I think that would be a great discussion for if you want to call back and talk to me. Matt talks about belief and why to do it. Promise talks about belief and why to do it. A lot of our hosts dabble on those, but like those two in particular, me, Matt, and Promise, I would recommend talking to about, because like that's something that we dig into a lot. But I'm excited to see your deconstruction, my guy, because it sounds a lot like you are identifying the problems in your thinking, and they are very fucking common problems. And so it's nothing to be ashamed about, but it is something to address, because otherwise you will be taken advantage of. And we don't want that for you, man. You're too nice of a guy. So do call us back sometime. We'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody in the chat is saying call back sometime. And I'd love for you to call. I host a show on Tuesday nights, Chewed Gum, and we love these kind of calls. So feel free to call anytime.
Yep.
Could I have 10 more seconds? Because I want to say something I feel passionate about.
Yes, and also before you do, I also want to say the 17th. The 17th of this month, St. Patrick's Day, I'm also on with Erica for Skep Talk, which is the longest show in history. Yeah. So we'll have 12 hours to dig into it if you want then as well.
I'm gonna keep that in the schedule. Well, what I wanted to say
was the last thing.
Yeah, go ahead. This is just irrelevant because I know there's a lot of theist callers here, and I am a Muslim from the Middle East. Islam does teach a lot of bad things about how you should be mean to people who are on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. I have never subscribed to that, and I feel like if anybody here is a theist who does subscribe to that for whatever reason, if the reasons are as bad as what I hear around here, I just implore you guys to sit down and think, like, if they're not Christians, if they're not Muslims, if they're not this, then why are you judging them so bad? Do you hate other Muslims as much as you hate them? Because they're not subscribing to your religion the same way, and they're just behaving the way that they should. Please be kind to LGBTQ people. I have a lot of friends that way, and I feel upset seeing them, living such a scary life, I would say. And yeah, just be kind, please.
Yeah.
And that's all.
I love that. Thank you very much, Nasser. I appreciate you. Have an awesome rest of your day, dude.
Thank you.
Bye. We were talking about, like why to believe things, and it was very sweet. And the whole time we were talking about why to believe things and what evidence is, and how we're not scientists in this and that realm, and how we don't know this. And all I could think about was the words of the great American poets Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, who once said, "Fire, water, air, and dirt, fucking magnets. How do they work? And I don't want to talk to a scientist. Y'all motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed." That's where we get
Brilliant
religion
words.
from, right there. That's
Oh,
it. Really
man.
summarized when he's
If
asking
they would
why do
just
people
say
believe
that.
this shit. That's it. That's it. He's asking how do we
Oh,
believe and why do we believe these crazy things? Insane Clown Posse spells it out for you very well. You know,
incredible. Love it.
Wow, that was a great
so
clip we
scared.
just watched. Hey, Eve, what should the people do now?
Leave a comment, click like, subscribe, patreon.com/ does that say call the line?
Yeah. But if you could have made, we could just make it a little more natural. On the next clip, the outro will be much better.